Good morning. Welcome to Information Architecture Week 5. This week we are going to be talking about navigation. It's been hard to talk about IA in information architecture or even looking at information architecture diagram and never mention the word navigation, especially when we think of level 1. But now is the time to really talk about navigation, how people actually will be navigating through the content, what will be the mechanism and the system in place to allow them to navigate through the information architecture for Knightwood or for the zoo as well. So this is going to be the topic for this week. I know this is going very fast, and there is a lot of content and a lot of assignments. But we're in this together, and I hope you're enjoying the class and you're learning. Good morning, Drake. So there's been a lot of assignments. Some of them are satisfactory, unsatisfactory marking. I'm pretty much done with the other lab. Awesome. Glad to hear, Jeff. With the lab, so I'm really trying to provide as much feedback as early as possible so that you can and the expectation the feedback that I give you. I look at all the assignment, every single assignment, particularly this last submission. It was individual. The IA for Knightwood was all individual assignment. I wanted to see how each one manages doing the information architecture diagram. And I would say for the most part, you guys have listened well and you've gone through the material. But I do know that yesterday, I did go in more details about the some example of IA diagram. So if you have not had a chance to listen to the session, it was recorded. I really encourage you to do so because I provide a lot of feedback on how I would actually do the evaluation when I look at the information architecture. So I did use ThinkCloud. I was looking real time at some diagram that I have provided from last week and giving my impression, my first impression. A lot of these diagrams were picked from other teachers, so it was me looking at it as you, and I was almost evaluating the IA as if you submitted UI, and then I was giving feedback, clear feedback on my understanding of the information architecture. So I highly encourage you to listen to yesterday's session because I do expect that you will things that I look at and I pay attention to based on what you've seen on the video for your zoo submission as well, and for the final project as well, which we are going to have a chance to talk about today. So speaking of the last assignment for the zoo and the last assignment about the zoo, I was really happy in Miro how you've presented the assignment, and everybody, I would say for the most part, did very well. So as I have mentioned, I've provided feedback directly in the board, in the wall, and I also give feedback. And if you only had one team member from your team submitting a submission, then they are the only ones that can actually see the feedback from the submission. Make sure you connect. Make sure whoever has submitted and has received the feedback that you share the feedback with the rest of your team members. I do give feedback. I do give the breakdown on where you did good and where you may have lost some marks. But you will hopefully understand why and how. And then I typically give you some insight as to what it might have happened. So very important to incorporate the feedback that I'm giving you throughout. And I do look, when I go look at the zoo, for example, the last assignment for the zoo, then I did look at, obviously, if the user goals were still matching, if the user goals and the business goals, and then the cart sorting from the different carts exercises, if there was continuity with the final outcome, your final cart sorting as well. We need to make sure that what you found for each of the individual cart sorting is actually carried over. But I do know that that's a challenge. That's a big challenge in itself to take 4, 8, 6 or 8 different cart sorting and try to make sense of them, look at patterns, and then bring what you've learned. And it's hard to maintain all of what you've seen, but that is cart sorting. So there's no other way around. But I would say you did very well at explaining to me the process that you went through, the logic and the flow. And some of you actually illustrated this on Miro. It's so easy. I feel like I was there. So the easier you make it for me to understand how you've done and what the process is, it's the likelihood that you'll get a faster assignment marked, and then you're gonna get you're gonna get maybe even more feedback, because I feel that I'm capable of giving more feedback because I see more. There's more for me to understand, and I don't fill in the gap. So very, very happy. And I will expect the same thing with this next assignment. So there's another assignment for this week. And this assignment, let's just, I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can all look at it together. So this week assignment is due for, it is going to be the, we did the the eyesight mapping. Actually, you're already in it, we've already looked at it. So this is due today at midnight. So for this week, for navigation assignment, I do look forward to seeing the information architecture assignment that is due today. Okay, on that note, I have seen some of the lab assignment that was the information architecture for Nightwood. I saw a diagram with no arrows. I have a connectivity. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yes, I saw your message, Idric. Yes, I was getting a message saying my connection was gone, but I think I'm back now, right? Awesome. Sorry about that. Okay, so today's assignment with the zoo, make sure that there are boxes and the diagram looks like a typical information architecture diagram. So I have got submission for the lab there was no diagram. It looked very much like the court sorting. And in the diagram, I do expect to see level 0, level 1, level 2, and the home, and then your top categories, and then your subcategory, and then some of you have third categories as well. So make sure that is very well reflected. And again, I know the timing is so tight for this class, but I would encourage you to maybe listen to the sessions from yesterday, and then see if there are things that you may have missed that you incorporate in it as well. So again, I will not penalize you if you've put navigation, but I do put navigation in my information architecture as well. You're not expected to put the navigation for the information architecture. If you find it that you can actually receive from the assignment. And then the goal of this assignment is that you have to design apply the principle of IA to a responsive website for the Toronto Zoo. So you're going to take your navigation, your IA, your site information architecture that you've delivered today, which then I will mark it, I will give feedback. And you will take then the information architecture, and now you're going to design the navigation. You're going to design the navigation for the Toronto Zoo based on your information architecture. So we're going to learn about navigation today. And then you're actually going to have to sketch it and build it in a low fidelity prototype or screens. And then so that it's really understood for me what your navigation system and mechanism will be as well. But let's go through a little bit more of that assignment in detail. Again, it's available on Blackboard. So you have to assume that your site will be responsive for the Toronto Zoo. There is an article or two that talks about mobile responses, specifically in navigation for this week's reading. So make sure you go through them as well. You may have someone on the team who's more familiar with responsive design and how do we design good navigation or system for depending on the format of your devices. So when we say responsive and mobile responsive is when you adapt your screen, the screen is being adapted to the device that the user is on. So typically we're talking about mobile, a smartphone, or a tablet. So in this assignment, you'll be designing the navigation system for the same responsive website. So you're designing the navigation system for the zoo, for your zoo, based on your IA, and then you also have to illustrate what it will look like when it's responsive on a smaller screen. Typically, you're probably going to have the hamburger menu as well, which I think most people expect on the mobile device. Use the knowledge you have so far about the client. So that hasn't changed. The client, the target audience, and the information architecture diagram you've designed earlier, which is submitting today. Then you will interpret the IA and develop a set of navigation elements. So the main navigation, the top, the global navigation, whatever you choose to call it, the footer navigation, and the menus that will appear throughout the website on every screen. So you want to show me the navigation that actually probably sticks, that stays, that is consistent on all pages, but you may want to show me some of the rollover. Maybe you're going to have some navigations that when you roll over your mouse, it expands and show the subcategory. So it shows level 2 and maybe some level 3 too. So you will need to take that into your account as well in your design. But I would say try to stay very, very simplest. I think it will be easier. And I'm looking at chat. I will come back to your question, Jeff. I just want to make sure that I'm going through the details because I know it can be confusing, but I will come back to you. You may need to show a different screen for different levels to be able to fully demonstrate how the navigation will work. This is up to you. So if you want to go advanced navigation, which I would probably not recommend, then you may want to do 1 or 2 screens to really show me what the behavior is. Maybe you're gonna say my main navigation, my top navigation will be will have stickiness and it will always stay there. So when someone starts scrolling, then and you've seen some example, and I think we're gonna look at some today. Then the top section, the logo, the telephone number, the chat always stays on screen. It's like it becomes like a new toolbar at the top, which is also sometimes very useful for consumer to know that they are 1 click away to chat, 1 click away to the telephone number, and then as a business, it reinforces that maybe they want people to be calling them. People convert better over the phone versus online. As Rogers, that was something that we had done at Rogers. So you may go as sophisticated if you want, but you don't have to. But if you do and you think it's easier for you to design and show me that screen, but you will have to explain to me that behavior as well. So there's going to be a bit more work, a little bit more details, I would say, than the other assignment, but you can also choose to keep it very simple, but make sure that it's usable for your user. You do not need to design the actual page, screens, the content areas of those screens. They can be blank. I'm really just interested in the navigation itself. So if you show me the homepage, which I think you show the navigation on the homepage, I don't need to see the content in the middle part. I just need to understand how the navigation will work. Okay. So this week's reading, relevant for navigation site mapping assignment, and what it shows for different screen size. So yes, this week's reading. We're going to come to the reading, Jeff, but there's one specifically for mobile, responsive and mobile design as well. The assignment format, so your navigation system should be in Adobe XD or similar prototypes or any prototype that you have so that I can click or I can view or I can see. If you don't build in prototype, that you'll have to do a lot of explanation to me. That is okay too. To be honest with you, my biggest interest is to make sure that you understand hold on. Don't you have an appointment? What time is it? It's not 11. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. My partner had an appointment and I thought he should be at his appointment by now, but it's in a half an hour. My apology. I just want to make sure he doesn't miss it. Okay, so if you choose not to do a prototype, as long as you show me, or I can understand from your mock-ups for your wireframes or your mock-up, your navigation and how it's going to behave, I'm okay with that too. But again, if it's easier for you to build a prototype, but you will need to indicate to me where I can actually click. Adobe XD does a good job at that, but if you have something similar, but you have to make sure that I can actually understand the prototype and I can actually understand the navigation and go through your navigation. So if you do that well, and you choose a method to do it, as long as I can really see your navigation, then I'm okay. But if I have a hard time, I will let you know. It's really up to you. Prototype, but it doesn't need to be high. A high fidelity. It's a low fidelity wireframe prototype, black and white. I don't need to see the design element. But you have to ensure that the size and scale of all elements is accurate. So I want to make sure that the navigation and the size you're going to use for navigation is proportional to the rest of the page. And all navigation should be accurately labeled. So I need to see your, if you call it global navigation, your main navigation, your utility navigation, I need to make sure that I understand and you label them. If you use icons, you are using final icons. This is the one element of created that will be required. So again, I'm not really picky when it comes to the icons. This is from the previous teacher. So if you want to put a cute icons, well then that's I would say that's really up to you. I'm not going to be too picky on the final no icon. But you have to make sure that the icons are understood. And if you choose an icon, then maybe you want to use have text with it too as well. Okay. If you're recommending drop-down, flyout menus, off-canvas menus, or any other menu that has a motion component, this must be working in your prototype. Or explain to me what, and also what happens with, how do I get out of that state, of that navigation state? So it has to be clear that if there's an element that how do I click and then the navigation appears, there's rollover, or if it's a rollover, I think it's very straightforward. But how do I get out, and then how do I go back to maybe the starting point, which may be the home page as well? You may want to show me that in some cases. If you have facet navigation, I need to understand if I need to refresh by or not as well. So these are small details that you'll have to consider and think about. So if you choose a prototype, then I need to be able to open all menus to see their content. If the menus are not working precisely as they would in final product, recommendation around the motion and timings of all menus should be included. So I need to understand what happens and how it works. I don't need to see, let's say for your top menu navigation, well, because you're going to have categories and subcategories, that I would probably want to see all the sub and the sub. UI is very clear, which it should, that I would say I just need to see one example of how your main navigation will work. So let's say you have your, we have the zoo, and then some of you have about us. Then you only need to show me the behavior around about us. I don't need to see the behavior for community or for planning your trip at the zoo, if it's one of your level 1. I just need to see the details of navigation for one element in your level 1. And then if you have your utility navigation, there's something particular about your utility navigation that you need to show me, then you also need to tell me, and if there's stickiness. But I think a lot of it will make sense today as we learn more about navigation. The more you provide, the more details, then the easier, and then the more I will know that you understood. I think that's probably a good rule to follow. In the addition of your design, your navigation design, submit a revised brief from your last assignment, including any new relevant information in your information architecture diagram. So I need to see your IA, definitely your IA. And then if you end up having to make changes to your IA, because as you work through navigation, you're gonna find some holes. You're gonna discover that things that you haven't considered. Then I'd like for you to explain to me what are some of those changes and why you chose this approach to your navigation system as well. So the rule is you need to give me a brief that explains what the choices that you've made, or the changes that you had to make to your information architecture because you've discovered that there were some holes as you're working on your navigation. Maybe you discovered there was redundancy. And I have mentioned to some of you on your lab submission that there's some items that are redundant in your level 1 and level 2. So you will need to solve for that when you move to your navigation. So I do need a brief that explains your choices. I do need a brief that will explain changes that you had to make to your IA on things that you've discovered as you were doing this assignment, which some of you, most of you have done it in the previous assignment too. But I do need to see a brief of what happened and why you came to those choices as well. So we talk about the responsive element. As this website will be a responsive website, you'll need to show how the navigation design respond to different screen size. I just need to see mobile, the smartphone, and then your desktop. So I need to show to see how your navigation will adapt to a smartphone as well. To limit the scope, your prototype will only need to show 2 screen size, desktop and mobile. So you only need to show me 1 page to show me what the navigation will, where navigation will be, and what the navigation, how will navigation will adapt on a mobile device. So 1 screen for mobile. But if you want to show me more, 2 and 3, it's up to you. Then it just means I'm going to have a better understanding of what your navigation will behave on the smartphone. So depending on which prototyping you're using, you may be able to show both sizes in 1 prototype. If not, submit 2 prototype links. And make sure that they're clearly indicated as well. So complete your assignment as if it was a client deliverable, and I would say your assignments so far have been very professional. So continue. I would feel confident to be able to show most, if not all, of the assignments to the client, to the zoo. I say that the level of quality is pretty good. You'll have to submit in Blackboard. Only 1 team has to submit. And then you can submit in Miro. I just don't know if you can do prototyping or if Miro is advanced enough to do screens and layout and explain. If you feel that Miro is this an option for you, then carry on to Miro. Like you can use the same wall that you had and now just show me your navigation elements. Show me the mock-ups on the screen for your for the pages, for your navigation. On the same wall, that's okay too. It's the same. You can just carry on and moving on from the IA to now to the navigation elements. No grammar or spelling errors, and all team members as well to be clearly indicated, so I can then add marks to the ones that I have not submitted in Blackboard. So how will I be evaluating you? I will look at obviously the navigation systems represent all elements in the IA appropriately. So I need to make sure that all the elements that you have in your IA are reflected in your navigation. So I need to see where your global nav is, your utility nav, your footer. So all elements, I need to understand where they will be, where they will show on your navigation. The navigation systems support the correct number of levels, so you maintain the hierarchy that you have. Annotations are used appropriately and support the design. So you can use annotation in Miro, you can use annotation in Adobe XD, it's up to you. Design allows user to quickly navigate across and within categories. So I need to show or understand how people will navigate through your system and through the different categories. But as I said, I don't need to see all level 1 to be clickable and have all the sub-level categories. I will assume that the behavior for 1 will be the same, but you have to make sure that it's the case. Design allow user reflects best practices for usability. So most of you are in UX design usability, and then you've understood so far and until good usability. If you want to show me the breadcrumbs, show me the breadcrumbs. That's also a type of navigation. But make sure that if you're using proximity of elements, things that are together, people tend to group them together. If they're too close, they're not related, then they'll treat them and they'll have errors. So make sure that usability is applied through your choices. We have to design some system or solutions that are usable. Oh, okay, so perhaps I have to reshare, but I'm really just speaking about I'm not really sharing anything at this point, but let me just go back to the screen. I was really just sharing Blackboard, but now I'm sharing the assignment. Yes, and it's a PDF. It's available. So yes, but what you were saying is what I was actually, but it's not what I was looking at. So you're right. Apologies, Rudy. Now it's fixed. Uh, and then demonstrate a basic understanding of responsive. It was Dana. Responsive concept. So make sure that you take into account how your design, your navigation will adapt to your responsive. Professionalism, communication concept, and adherence to assignment requirement. Make sure you follow all the requirements. Some people lose points because you haven't followed all the instructions. I would say for the last assignment, everybody has improved, but I think the first assignment there were pieces missing. But make sure you don't miss any elements in this assignment. Its navigation should be easier, but now we're talking design. We're making choices about design elements. So not for the actual content itself, but you're designing. You're going to be making one of the video in today's lecture from Sarah, who's a teacher that some of you may have classes with Sarah in the past. She's done a very good little video that shows about how she goes about doing some of her sketches. We're actually going to be able to look at it, and then you guys will see some of the tools that she used as well. But she really just use a whiteboard, but it will help you to think about how you would pick this navigation. Make sure that you read it. Yes, it looks like I'm having some internet connectivity. So I don't know if you guys can hear me clearly now. But yes, I've been seeing that I've been losing some connectivity. So this is probably my provider. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. So my apology. Okay, let's go back to sharing. Okay, so navigation design. So where do we want to go and how will you get there? So now we're really impacting how people actually are getting to your content. So we worked hard at asking yourself the right question. What are the business goals? And what is the business trying to achieve with this information architecture or a new information architecture from scratch? Or how do we improve an information architecture? And then how do people will actually navigate to that content? So when you look at the zoo, you've done, and I look forward to seeing your assignment. You've now decided on the information architecture. You know your level 0, your level 1, your level 2, your level 3, and probably and level 4, maybe in some cases. You have a very good sense of what the main areas will be of your site of zoo, and I was really impressed to see what each team has come up with. Some things are similar, some things are very different. It could be a few things. The participants were very unique between teams, class, and or level, and where what we think of zoo and what we think of the people that are going to zoo. What's important to them will also affect. But information architecture is a very, very personal, subjective, also can be subjective, but there's a science around it. But it's also a creative and an art process. There's a creative element to it, but we always have to remember that we are not the users and that we know so much about the project. This is why we need to do card sorting. And I would say this is why you would probably do usability testing as well to validate your design UIA as you get more deep into the design of the pages and those experiences. and then you bring it to consumer and you watch them doing and using the product, and then you will see similarities to what you may have seen in the cart sorting, and you'll see new insight, and then you'll be able to adapt and make it a better product. So there's obviously a creative element to designing an IA, but there's also a framework that you have to follow that you've learned now. So we're very far down the path. Navigation and IA, they're not the same, but it's hard to and it will not necessarily always match your eye, but at the end of the day, obviously you're using your eye for your navigation. But you will probably going to end up making some adjustment to your eye, as I said. And if you do, then I'll need to see that into your brief, because I will have seen an eye information architecture with this week's assignment. But now I'm going to see maybe some changes, and you'll need to explain to me what had happened. So be prepared to maybe have to make some changes, and important to know that it's for the client. The client will want to know why a certain I might have changed as a result of working on a navigation system. The more you know about the product, the more you know about the user, the more you know about what you're trying to achieve and why you're making choices and decisions, the easier you'll be able to articulate it to your client. And as I said, if you have a hard time to articulate it, or if you have a hard time to take position and explain to your client why this is maybe why it is a good eye and why it's the best eye, if you're not able to do that, then any eye will be a good eye, and then you're not going to be able to defend your choices, and your client's going to have question mark and doubt about your credibility. So it's no good. And then, as I said, in some cases, the eye and the navigation may be actually the first deliverable that you do with this client. So it's not a good way to start a relationship if they are already seeing that you're not 100% confident in your choices. So this is why I'm as interested, if not more interested, in the process that you follow than the actual eye. But I have given a lot of recommendations and comments about your final cart sorting for Zoo, and now you'll be getting comments about the eye for all of that. I think will make you better with your navigation assignment, hopefully, as well. So you can make the choice of waiting to present the eye and the navigation mechanism system to your client all at once. But you could also make the choice to really just focus on the information architecture like we've done so far with Zoo, and then now introduce the navigation system. But they will ask you about navigation from the moment that you put the eye in front of them, because they will think level 1 is the top navigation. In a lot of cases, it will end up being, but you just want to make sure that there'll be a step dedicated to talk about navigation, which is what we will be focusing on for the next little while. So the navigation main components and patterns. So the first thing that you really have to think about is, what is the path that brings more money or save money to the business? The business, that's pretty much what they're interested in. They're interested in getting customer, in getting people to come to the zoo. They want people to know what the zoo has to offer. They want people to know about what the zoo is all about. But they really want to make sure that people are successful at buying tickets. With Nightwood, they want to make sure that people are actually successful at buying tickets too. But with Nightwood, unless you know what the shows are and you know the shows and you're interested in the show and what's playing now, then your next choice is to buy tickets. So I would say there should probably be one path to Nightwood, which is to really see the show and buy tickets, shows and tickets. Now, I do know that we have several teams that have separated both flows, and I've asked the question, or I've put the comments of, should we have 2 flows for shows and tickets? Should we have 1? And I would say, personally, if I were to design the Nightwood, I would probably just have 1 path, because I need to see the show and then I'll buy tickets. But I cannot buy tickets without knowing about the shows. And I feel that having 1 path, then you're optimizing for 1 path. Every time you have a choice as a consumer to do things, there's just going to go in there or 1. They go to both. Talk about the show, then they have to go back to see the shows and come back, unless you link to it, which you may, but you always have a chance that you're going to lose people. So every time a consumer has a decision point to make, there's always a chance that they will continue or they will choose to go and move. And what I have learned in all of my e-commerce design and information architecture, or even path, like purchase path, I have avoided to have a step. Every step, there's a chance you're going to lose people. And there's almost 50-50 sometimes. So I try to have as many steps, little steps in the process, as little choices for a consumer to go left or right, because I know that I'm going to lose some. So I try to keep them in one path, and then as little as possible in terms of steps to get to the end goal, the final goal. That has been my rule. But it does not mean that you should not have shows and then tickets as two level, independent level one. And it does not mean that you're not going to succeed. But I'm just sharing with you what I have learned and what I have seen. That said, don't go back and change all of your IA if you've already submitted it, because you don't lose points. I don't remove points, because any IA could be a good IA if you have good rationale and good rationale behind it. And then really, it's gonna go. You're gonna go in and you're gonna do some testing. You're gonna get some insight. You're gonna learn from it. You'll adjust and you'll improve. Right? Like, there is no two IA that is alike. There are no two IAs that are the same. But knowing which one is your direct path to value that will bring more money or save money to the business is a very, very good starting point to start. So tickets, shows tickets, buy zoo tickets, buy passes, buy season passes, view shows, view the zoo, what the zoo has to offer. They're similar. Now, donate. Donate is a huge path for businesses, right? Donate, support us, donate, give us money. And I've been very much inclined to have something that really says donate at level 0, so that I can really see that there's a place where I can go and donate money. It's a highly visible choice for businesses and for users, and then I can see who are the supporting, who has been supported. That would be my IA. But again, don't go back and undo. There's no point. No point. We're here to learn. So your direct path to very, very important. In this example, it's you log in and then you buy as well. Like if I zoom in, I think that's what it is. Purchase, yeah, you log in, you purchase. Now log in. So, and I think I've mentioned that never force someone to log in or create an account to buy. You're going to lose a lot of people. I think I've seen 30%, 40% of people actually drop conversion. It's a very, very, very big obstacle. Mind you, in some cases you have no choice. If you go for good food and you want to deliver boxes and food at home that you cook, you have to have a membership to be able to be a subscriber, because there's regular things that happens every week. You're going to get billed, you're going to be charged. But if you book a vacation, you don't need to have an account to book. If you buy even a cell phone, I would debate, like, why do I really need to have an account to be able to buy a cell phone? I could just buy my cell phone online, ship it home, and create an account and not have an online account. Like, having an online account for Rogers does not necessarily mean that you are a Rogers customer. And that's the other thing that a lot of businesses make the mistake. So I would say avoid having to create an account. And because someone has an online account does not mean that they are a customer of yours. I may not have at all an online account with Rogers, an online account with Air Canada, an online account with any businesses, but be a customer. Very, very important. So you're going to hear some terminology when it comes to navigation, but you have to stick to a terminology you're comfortable with. And then if you choose to call it something else, that's okay. But have a clear label for it and be consistent. But here's some that you will see. Top main navigation, or the top navigation, the main navigation, the left, sometimes the left navigation. But I think that there's a trend now that pretty much all navigations are happening to in a top section, top area of the of a website. Let me see. I'm gonna add the file, because what I notice is I can't draw on screen. I want to be able to draw on screen too. Design this. I think this is the right one. So primary navigation, global navigation. You're going to hear those terms. Rollover, you're going to have flyover, rollover to expose the second level. Sometimes you have to click on the level 1 to see level 2, and then it expands. Sometimes you have, as soon as you roll over, then it will expand, the menu will expand, and then you hope that you can actually go and click, and sometimes some of them will disappear on you. So there are some usability issues sometimes with those rollover or flyout, as we call them. Sticky navigation, you're going to hear about sticky navigation. So the sticky navigation is where, as I said, the logo, some elements from your navigation or your utility navigation, or maybe your main navigation will stay on screen all the time. They're always going to be there for you to refer to and click on them if you want. At Rogers, we've actually did it for the internet or television section of Rogers as a product. We've done some A/B testing to see what happens when we actually make the telephone number and the information for support sticky on screen at all time. We had a 20 to 25% increase in calls, in phone calls, and then that was really important for Rogers. And they were good phone calls. They were not like wasting my time phone calls. They were people calling because they really wanted to have details about the service and actually subscribe and become customer too. So that's why we chose stickiness. But it doesn't mean you should do it, but it can actually have some very positive impact. The second stripe of items in navigation. So this would be, and I'm sure you've noted, so let's say this is, let's pretend that our level 1 navigation, and then we have, I would assume that this is a level 2, obviously, for, let's say for all of them. It's not 100% clear. Sometime you will see that when I click on this element, it exposes another choice, but it will expose a second choice really only for this elements, right? It will expose a new choice, menu choices. So your second level will show as navigation on screen. That is your second stripe of items. But again, think of a terminology that eventually you will train people in your business and that they will understand and just be consistent and use it all the time. The breadcrumbs, we all know. Utility bar, search bar, filters, facet. We're going to learn about facet, footer navigation. Then you're going to hear infinite scrolling as well. So because we're talking navigation, infinite scrolling is revealing more content. Then I say it's part of your navigation. You're providing more access. Your local navigation, tabs, links, contextual. Maybe I'm going to pick the shoes category, but then when I go to pick shoes category, then I'm going to have choices to make. Is it running shoes? Is it hiking shoes? So those are become almost your local navigation. They're contextual to the section and the level that you've picked. Then the drop-down menus. So very important. Now, this was just a high review, but you have to think about your direct path to purchase is very important. And perhaps what you may want to do for Zoo is maybe you want to show me if you feel that you need to show me a level 1 expanded with level 2, maybe you want to pick your buying tickets or your high level path or donation as well if you want. If you feel that it's relevant, you can pick that path, and then I will know why you've selected that particular path, but I will need to understand why you selected that particular navigation schema or mechanism as well. So I think this is just a representation that the navigation will allow you to go inside deep into a level 1, a specific level, or across. And we all know that the customer will navigate through their journey, right? So, and I did mention to some of you the and I can't really see what those options are. Woman, man. So if I'm a man, but woman, man, baby, bath and body, house and home, but men. So let's say that I come to Neighborhood General, and Neighborhood General, it sounds like they're selling clothing and they're selling a few other articles. I may come to them initially as man, and maybe I want to buy, I'm looking for a specific denim. I'm looking for denim. But then maybe I want to go and I want to explore more options. And here I want to look at sport items. But eventually, then I see house and home. Then maybe I want to buy house and home. So is there a way that I navigate that I can actually jump into house and home? It will depend on what you will choose. Maybe this is always, you're going to make this that it's your top navigation, and then I can always see and I can navigate. Now, remember, we know that a lot of people will come to your site from an insight page. You want to allow them to see and view and see and view and explore, and then there'll be the footer nav here, right, as well. So maybe there'll be elements on the footer that will say contact or chat, and maybe you're gonna have chat, call us. So there's nothing really new here, but now we're just going to see in more details how we actually allow someone to navigate through the information architecture. Tip and tricks. So experiment with different approaches. Now, mind you, it's hard to change navigation, and navigation is not something that you're going to be changing every day. So you have to make the best decision I would say at day one about the navigation that you think is probably the best for your product and for your eye and the industry, based on your business, the business priorities, your user, and also what they may have seen on other. I would say don't design a navigation thinking you'll be able to change it next week, because it's not something that you will change as easily as you will change the information architecture or a label. Like, you're probably going to be stuck with your navigation for 2 or 3 years. That would be what I would give you as a piece of advice. Don't forget about your list of features. So your building feature for Zoo. Now you can think about how you're going to implement and how you're going to integrate or expose those features. So maybe it's search, newsletter, sign up for newsletters, sign up. Maybe your newsletter is actually going to be on your footer nav as well. You're going to have an entry point to your newsletter if you want, but it will live under contact or about us as a Zoo for some of you, but you'll have an entry point to newsletter specifically. Same thing with media. Maybe you're going to have a media center link to your footer navigation because these are links that you felt that you wanted to reveal. And I would say a lot of people will expect that too. Your rationale could be benchmark as well. Sometime, and as I said, you will find some holes, and this is why I needed a debrief as well, and so that I will understand why you made changes. So it doesn't matter how great your content is if no one can find it. Navigation is best when it's not noticed at all, and I think this is true for IA. When for usability, when you have a good usability and a good design, it just feels natural, right? So 3 of the basic navigation questions. And where did I come from? Where am I? Where can I go? What does this remind you? What comes to mind when you read these particular 3 questions? What comes to mind from what you've learned? Do you remember the heuristic evaluation? One of them is called visibility of the system status. That's the one. So when I see this, that's the first one that comes to mind, right? So where can I go? Where have I been? Or where can I go? And people use the breadcrumbs or even the breadcrumbs, right? Yes, your wayfinding. So very, very important. What happens when the navigation system for a product is poor? What's the poor navigation? Type in. You can type in your answer on the slide if you want. So what happens when it's poor navigation? Yes, they get lost, frustrated, they abandon, and may never come back. Yes, they will lose track, go to your competitor, right? It's just, they're already saying that they're probably very interested in your product. So there's a cost. You're going to lose customer. They will leave the product. Yes, they will leave the product. Sorry, I've switched slide and someone was typing in. You will lose revenue. You will increase your cost. If they can't find if they can't find a specific answer to how they can return an item, if I don't know, if I can't find where's the zoo, how do I get to the zoo? And I have to call. It's someone that you're paying to take a phone call, so something that could have been answered, right? Exactly. They may never come back. So it's bad business. Good navigation is good business. Navigation system should go anywhere from anywhere whenever possible. So I should pretty much go anywhere I choose to from any pages from your site if I want. And this is why on the web, you don't have cancel. You don't have back. as well. So I see, and I've seen in some heuristic evaluation that I've done for other classes, people will say, well, there's no back button. I can't really get out of my categories or my page. Most people use the back button, and I don't know if it is in this class, but the navigation. So you have to consider this. People use the back button on their browser highly, very highly, and probably the most from all the back buttons. They don't expect a back, something called back on screen as an option because they will use the back button. And in fact, what you need to make sure is that your browser, your website will support people using the back button so that they don't go back to starting point, and that often, very, very often happens. So on the final project, which I have now put the details up, and we should probably keep some time before the end of the session today, is for me to introduce you our final project, the big project. The big project will sum it up. It will bring everything that you've learned that we've done in class until this point. So I think you'll be happy with the choice that I have made for the project. So let's see, let's maybe keep 5 or 10 minutes for the big project. But anyway, the back button it's a navigation element that people use. It's part of the browser, but it's also part of your navigation system. Never lose sight of that. And there's also no cancel. We don't do cancel form, cancel anything on the web because people know that to cancel, they just go back home. Or they go back, they go back home. So that is very, very important. When if you're in your checkout, if you have a checkout process and you have specific steps, so maybe it's going to give, the first one will be contact info. Step 1 is provide your contact info. Step 2 is provide your payment info, and then step 3 is confirm order. Maybe you want to provide navigation between those steps too. So if I've done the step 1 of contact info and I've said next, and then now I'm on the payment page, maybe you want to allow navigation to the previous step. Not all steps inside a purchase will do it, but you may want to allow. I've done A/B testing on with or without. If there was huge improvement, and I don't think there was a big improvement, to be honest with you, but you need to give them the option to edit, to go back. So what I meant by that, you could say step 1 in your navigation, step 2. Now it's navigation within a flow, which is your high value flow, right? So we could, I don't know if I can do underline. I don't think I can't, but let's maybe use a line. So maybe you would do something that will allow someone to go back to step 1 or step 2, right? And then maybe at this particular stage, I'm in this step. That's not what I wanted to do. And that will not allow me, and that will erase. I may never give the option to navigate by clicking on step 1, but you definitely at a minimum needs to give an option, the option that will say that I can edit info or edit payment, because I may have missed something. Yes, and so it helps with error prevention, or maybe I realize that there's something that I have forgotten to put into my info that now I see on my payment page, and I go, oh shoot, I put Mrs., but it's Mr. And it's a travel ticket, and then I don't have to start all over again. And then there's a risk that the back button may not support. And in those flows, sometimes they're actually going to erase, you're going to lose everything. So that is part of your navigation, but we're getting a bit advanced. But to be considered, use clear and concise label. So, and always indicate the current position within the site. That's visibility number 1. So the more you can show someone where they are inside the hierarchy, the better. Then they'll know where they are, they'll know where they can go, and they'll be able to navigate. Consistent label. Remember the bubble. Business, objective, user objective, breadth versus depth. So good balance. I think most of you had good balance, but some of your category in the final cart had a lot of sub-level 2 and 3. And then we have labels and we have basics. Try to not have too much details in the eye. It's going to be hard to get approval. People will get caught up in the curtains and the wall, color on the wall when it's not relevant yet. And your labels. So at this point, your labels should always be final. be consistently placed. You have to have your navigation to be consistent. You can't have your navigation switching. Very confused. And then this is where sometimes you have a challenge when you have different people that owns different of your level. So maybe for the zoo, level 1 is owned by marketing, level 2 is owned by communication, level 3 is owned by donation people, and they all have their own way of thinking and their own way that they want. That is no. You're gonna have to fight back and push back on that. Group like items that are group items that are related together, and by now you should know things that are together, people treat them as together, so it's good. But sometimes you find items that are grouped that they're not related, and this is where people start making errors. So there's a lot of things to consider, but search and browse. So now we're going into some example, but before I do that, are there any questions or anything so far from this morning that you guys want to bring forward? And I'm trying to bring the zoo in the conversation so that you can relate to it. Yes, Dana, go ahead. And then I think maybe it's Rudy, but Dana, definitely. Go ahead, Dana.
Hi, so I have a question. I know you went through it very quickly and briefly, but I wanted to know about, for example, we have about us, but it's a very general item on the navigation menu, and we have contact us or get involved with us, and then the main thing, for example, for the zoo is about the animals and the tickets and the events. So how do
Yeah.
we order it from left to right? Should necessarily the about us should be on the far left, and the main thing should be in the center, or it doesn't have any specific order and we can start having anything anywhere,
So if we think of the bubble, so if we go back to the bubble be business objective. Maybe that's the starting point for your answer. So what is the business interested in? Is it animals, or you think it's people to discover about them as a
Uh,
business?
so they want to show the animals and then people come and, take a tour, which needs the
Yes.
ticket.
So I would probably say that based on this, I think showing the animals, showing the tickets, showing how much it is and the day pass, all any of this is probably a higher priority. And the animals, so people can connect with the animals. I would say typically, Dana, about us, unless you're a startup and your business that people don't know about you, maybe it will be your first level 1 element. But if you establish, and most people know about the zoo in the Toronto Zoo, for example, then you can say that this level 1 item will be position number 6 or position number 7 or towards the right. And I would say if you do a few benchmark, if you just really go to some website and pay attention to where about us is, I think that more and more you see it to the right hand side. About us is like the last one of the final item, and it's almost like people have expected them to see about us further there. But I don't know if it's with this class, the Costco website. I don't know if we did a heuristic evaluation with Costco on this class, or it was my other class. It's a brand new site, people don't know. So about us, their philosophy, they call it our philosophy, is the first item on level 1. So it really depends on the business priority.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. I think, and I don't know which teams for the zoo, but I really think for kids, like the zoo, if the kids could connect with a particular animal, like if there's a gorilla, and knowing the gorilla and the name, and be able to have almost like the animals writing to them as a blog every day and fighting news about how the animal is doing and how many hours he slept and how many hours. I think that would be so much fun for kids, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit of a kid, but I thought it could be some good opportunities for kids to connect. And we know with pandemic, a lot of people have got animals. I think people are connecting more with the nature, and I thought that could be something fun for the zoo. But anyway, we can go and sell the idea to them. So the bubble is a good place, good starting point. Dana, was there any other questions or anybody else that has come forward? Okay. Yes, Einshaw.
Hi, Eve.
Hi.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but what I, understood from Dana's conversation early is So if we're talking about service-based industries, mostly like what I've noticed is they would have their About Us section, like a little towards the left side, which is like one of the first sections. And like for
Yeah.
product-based companies, it's mostly like the products and about details about that would be um, before About Us.
Yes, it honestly, Angel, I don't think there's one right or wrong answer. It all depends on what you want to put as a business. So, and I don't know that you will find a big difference between About Us being to the left, to the middle, or to the right hand side in discoverability and visits. But this I would say is what I would do if I were you. You could very well say the business really wants to push About Us. They want people to understand about us, and that's going to be your first position for level one. That's okay. Now, but maybe they will say we're thinking maybe it should be position 3 or 4, and what you could tell them is let's go with position 1 for About Us for launch. But in as we've said, your information architecture should somehow be uh, flexible, adaptable, so that you could actually change the label or move a section if you wanted on your site. Hopefully, with your developer and designer, so that you're not locked in for life for positioning of for level 1 items. Then you could do A/B testing actually. So you would do an A/B testing. What you would do is you would use the tool, and that would be real life production. You would send 50% of your people. You will send to the version where they see the About Us to where it is. It's a version A, so that would be left hand side. Then you create a version B, where you're going to send 50% of your visitor also randomly to version B, which now maybe your About Us will be to the complete right. And then you will see if you're seeing less visits to About Us. And my gut feeling tells me you will not. It will be, it's not going to be significant enough. But that is something you could do with that customer. You have a fallback to be able to say, hey, we can do this real time, live. We can change our information architecture if we find out in the task that it's more effective. And if not, then we're good. Then it makes no differences. I don't think moving elements from left or in between makes a big impact. I've from what I have done in my testing, there was no impact. But changing a label makes a huge impact. Adding an item, moving an item's level 2 to a level 1, huge impact on visit level 2 items now that it becomes a level 1.
Okay.
Having level 1 item as an item is huge impact on visits. You will see like exponential increases in visits. That I will know. Moving from position 1, 2, and 3, it's my experience is there's little to no impact.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yves. And just a question about
Yeah.
cart sorting and the activities in general. So one of the feedback that I had received was about color coding. When do you think it's a smart move to incorporate color coding when it comes to cart sorting?
Uh, Here's the thing, my position with color coding. When you have color coding, you have to explain what it means. Uh, and uh, and maybe it's not needed for a participant in cart sorting. So in cart sorting, the participant, you don't want, when you introduce color coding, you're almost suggesting that maybe one color is better than the other color. And this is me thinking loud, okay? I'm just thinking loud. If I'm a participant and I've seen so many people doing these sessions, when you introduce the color coding, and then they may start like wondering too much and paying attention about the color. When really do they have to pay attention to the color? In a cart sorting, I say no. I say I don't think they should be paying attention to color. You're only interested to see how they actually group these items together. I think color is just, it's sending them a signal that maybe you want them to do something and maybe you expect something different depending on the color, but I think we're just adding cognitive load on them. I would use all the same sticky notes. I think psychologically a different color coding may have an impact. But what you may want to do though is if there are some cards, so let's say you use all yellow cards for your card sorting, but there's some cards that don't know where to put, then maybe you're going to put something there for you to code so that you know this card, they were not able to find a home for that card. It's left alone. Then in your marrow, then you would say, Yves, these cards in blue means that these cards, people were not able to find them a place. in the pile. They were not able to put them into a pile. So at least I know why are they here. But you could say they're yellow, but you'll say these cards in yellow, like grouped together, and people were not able to find them at home. And here's why. Because we've asked them and they've said, well, I don't think, for me, like this really means this has nothing to do with About Us. This has nothing to do with show. This has nothing to do with the zoo. This is really just, to me, a standalone thing that I don't really know how I would put. And that's okay. That's part of your findings. But hopefully you've done other sessions, and in the other sessions you've seen that most people have actually put that card in About Us. Well, then you would say, you know what? It's in the majority. And consistently About Us is where most people have put it, then that's a decision you would make. Is that helping?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So in the information architecture, I would avoid using color coding altogether. All of my eyes were black and white because I take away the focus on the color. When you put a color, if you're suggesting there's something unique about these things, you just have to think about your stakeholder, your clients. What is the color to them? What does the color mean to them? Maybe I would say the minimum, you could use a color coding maybe for level 1, but they'll say, oh, is this navigation? Now you go back to navigation. They'll say, why did you put it in a different color? You just need to be able to give them the answer. They'll say, okay, but how is this relevant? I say stay away from color because you're adding an element of details that you're going to have to explain what it is. And now it may actually delay you on getting them to approve. Maybe it's not relevant to know what color the curtains are at this point. That's how I would approach it. Okay, so my goal is not to start fights with class, but I'm just using my psychology of color, what color means and what people means. And I have seen, I think there was a time we would design website and people would actually design, each level would have a different color on the website. They thought the color would actually help consumer. Perhaps it may help, but I don't know that it makes a difference. And this is maybe a good example where you would do A/B testing. It's the basic in the information architecture. You want to see a tree, you want to see your level 1, 2, and 3, and 4. You want to see how content flows, and maybe there will be and now we're going to talk about navigation. That's all I really you need at this point. Then the details will come later. The details will come in navigation. The details will come on the wireframes, on the detail of the page, and the user, the experience, and the flow as well. So, but yeah, if you don't have to use color coding, don't. For some of you on your eyes that you give me in the lab, you had legend, which is good. If you're going to do color, put a legend. So everybody has put color in the legend. But I've seen some legends in a color that some of the legends for color was options, and I wasn't sure what options meant. So, and it's not all teams, but some teams. When you think of me as a stakeholder, if you're presenting me your information architecture, everything is an option. Level 1, home is an option. Level 1, about us is an option. Level 2, show and tickets is an option. Level 2, under show and tickets for current show or season 2021 is an option. So you have to remind yourself you're designing something for a user, for end product. Will they understand what options is? In their mind, everything is an option. So you have to be careful on what is that? Why is that thing called option, and why is it yellow? Why do you need to bring option that you've called option, right? So put yourself in the shoe of and if you have come to the session yesterday, I went through a lot of that in detail. So I would really encourage everybody to listen to the yesterday session because we went into more depth. And Leah and Jamie can testify. It's funny, I usually have 1 or 2 students coming on the Tuesday afternoon. So Leah has been very, very loyal, and Jamie joined in yesterday. So I feel like I'm teaching one-on-one, but I teach the way that I teach, whether it's 1 or 2 or 50 people. But I think they can say that, yes, we've covered a lot of these elements yesterday, which I think you will find useful. I did a lot of eyes and trying to understand the AI as if I was a consumer of yours. So navigation, we know, and this was day 1. For information architecture, there are a few types of searcher. People that are searching for information, and there are like almost 1, 2, or 3 profile or type of people that are searching for information. without giving me the exact label, can someone share with me the type of information seekers that are out there when they come to your site or when they go to Google? Anybody wants to take a guess of the kind of searcher, like information seeker that there are there? Yes, how to do, perhaps, Jeff? So you're gonna have, where is vacation to Cancun? I just want to go to Cancun. Or vacation to Cancun, family vacation to Cancun for 7 days to a 5-star hotel with Sunwing, who leaves Toronto at 7 a.m. Yeah, locations around me. So, or maybe I'm just looking for a guitar. Or no, I'm looking for a guitar, a vintage look and has brown. Like some people are very, very specific in what they know. Some people are very vague because they don't really know. They're starting to explore an area. Yes, cooking recipe. But I may say I have ingredients. I have vegetables and I want to make a recipe. Give me recipe ideas. Or someone's gonna say, I want to make a super soup, a soup that is vegetarian soup with broccoli and tomato and no tomato juice and low fat, blah blah blah. So everybody will have different needs that they will be searching for. So that means you're gonna have people that know exactly. Some people are exploring, some people are very exhausting, and some people will call, and they're gonna be exposed to, do I search, do I search, or do I browse here? So the point is, you need to design for people that know exactly what they want, and you need to design for people that don't really know what they want. And you should have browse and you should have search. I would say nowadays, most sites have both, but you have to accommodate for people that don't really know, and they are actually relying on your levels or your subcategory to actually get inspired about some of the content. One of your level 1 is all-inclusive vacations. But then there you're going to have all-inclusive vacation family, all-inclusive vacation, spa-inclusive vacation, hiking, all-inclusive vacation. So now you're kind of like grouping them where you have categories that are about style of vacations. So maybe that is helping someone who's like had no idea that you could actually book a catamaran vacation or a hiking vacation. So you're kind of giving them some indication, and then who you're hoping to explore. Or you're going to have someone who knows exactly the catamaran and has the name of the catamaran in Cancun that see dolphins and do things in the 7 days, that will come and type it in and search for it. Or maybe they come through Google and they will discover you, right? So we talked about this in week 1. Navigation menu or navigation bar. Okay, yay, now we're seeing a real navigation. So this could be a zoo, right? This could be a zoo, and but it's salon. So I would say that's the newspaper, and you have news, politics, entertainment, life, tech, business, sustainability, innovation. So at this point, to this point on, this is, I would say, almost your product navigation. So your main navigation. Now you have your logo, right? Left. Now you're going to see some people actually choose to put the logo here. Well, probably above here. And then they just move everything to the left. News, politics. Now at this, and then you have this. These are almost like accessory, utility. They have nothing to do with your business, but they're there. They're like on almost every site, right? They're not specific to your business, but they are what people expect or what people would want. And then, as I said, you may have this sticky. So when I start scrolling, there's a big bar and it stays there. It's always there, and I can click, I can explore. And if I came to your site on a very specific pages, and I'm here on the news, then I will see the other things. So this is your navigation bar. This is another example of navigation bar. So they call it a collection of links grouped together on a page, whether as a graphic, image, map, or text link. Well, as a graphic, it's very risky. Why? First of all, it's not going to be accessible because it's just going to be an image. So I don't even know how you do a big image, a big graphic as your main navigation. It's definitely not going to be responsive when someone to adapt the navigation, and then you're not going to be able to collapse some items too. So what you will see, and I think you'll see that on some of the sites. So responsive also mean if you have a different screen size, then maybe what they will do is they may actually be able to show. Let me do. So maybe everybody sees this, but as your screen size reduces, maybe you can only see some, and now you're gonna have something that will be called more. Maybe more is not the best term, but what you will do is you're gonna bring all of these elements and you're gonna collapse them to something more, and this is how you do your adapt. So you don't even use the burger, but you see burger here, there's the burger. But there are a few articles that talks against the burger. About the burger, what do we think? This is the burger, for those of you. The burger menu. What are some of the challenges with the burger menu? Just looking at the burger menu like this. What is probably one of the biggest complaint that people are complaining about the burger menu on mobile or even on the desktop? Yes, it's a junk dryer for your categories. Hidden menus. Yes, it's probably the place where people just put the place. It's garbage. It's like your FAQ, your help, whatever. It's where everything else doesn't fit. It's all those cards maybe that your cart sorting has revealed that you don't know where to put them. You just put them into the garbage. Meanwhile, it's left and center. Like this is huge, big placement, right? Hidden, you're hiding things too. So I think on mobile, because we're so limited in spaces on mobile, but maybe on mobile, why not decide on mobile that you're always going to have these items that will persist on your mobile, persistent, and then you're going to have maybe on your burger, maybe then you're going to have some of these other items into your burger. I don't know, but these are choices you'll have to make too on your assignment. You have to show me what happens on mobile, what you will do as well. Let's continue. This is just another way of the main navigation for Ontario, Canada. Home. So they have the button called Home. Now, at Flight Center and at Sunwing, I have removed, I believe, the Home button. I had no Home buttons. And everything, because this is where people will go. And then I had more space for Explore, Play, Planet Trip, Get Social, and My Search. So this is what they do. The home button is there to exit. So it's a quick exit, quick way to exit. Menu navigation. So I think this is now a collection of links as page builder. It's a graphic. Okay, so this is just another way of doing navigating, and it's left. And I think maybe it's the burger. Maybe this is the burger expanded. I'm not sure. But this is your calculator. So this is probably your online calculator. Yeah, your online calculator. There's left. We've seen very, very left. But the two other examples were top, right? So we have top across. They're across navigation, right? They all across. And then on this navigation, then it's left, right? It's all to the left. It's all left center. I think when the internet started. But things, you start scrolling and you start losing visibility on the items. I think, but you sometime you will talk. You very well have this approach. Looks like I got this. Wow, my connection is really bad today. I'm very sorry about that. Okay. Everybody can hear me? This is the day where I've got the most disconnected, and it's not a good day. I'm teaching like all day. Oh. So everything is being recorded. We're all good. Okay. So left navigation. I was just saying you didn't need to make choices. So, but we have the top, and then when you click on a section, you may very well choose to have left navigation, right? Or you may actually have this kind of navigation as well. That's also an option that you can choose for your project. And if you want to know the pros and cons of each one, then that's a decision you can make. But you can look at the zoo, what the zoo does today. If you were to think about redesign and if what the zoo does, maybe what part of your answer, if you're redoing the redesign for the zoo, maybe you maintain similar to what they have because people have become familiar. Maybe it's important, maybe it's not. And how will you know? The zoo will be able to tell you what is the percentage of repeat visits to new visits. At Sunwing, it was 60-40. 60% of my people had never been to Sunwing, 40% had. How bad would it be if I suddenly change the menu on the 40%? It depends on what they do on the site at the 40%. Maybe what they do is they log into the booking and the experience is completely different than navigating through the all-inclusive vacation. Maybe there's no impact. So this is where you need data. You will need data to do that. Okay, so let's look at a few more examples. We had left navigation menu. So this is all navigation. And I would say this is, now you're, depending on the type of site you're in, you can be very creative and very out of what you typically see. But if this is like almost like an Instagram slash at the blog with images, and I would assume that every of these images are clickable, and then I can probably go somewhere. So the images are probably meant for inspiration. And this is a local public eatery. This is a restaurant. So I think it's probably appropriate. But where's my menu? Right? This is where it starts. Where's my menu? Oh, okay. Sorry. It's over here. But I was so paying attention to my to the images that I actually forgot that there was menu as well. But this is where our menus are. So they chose left, but they could have very well chose at the top if they want to. Primary versus local navigation. So primary, this only refers to hierarchy of navigation. So level 1 is primary and local navigation. Maybe level 2 is becoming local, and level 3 is probably maybe also becoming local. But this site does a very good job at showing you where you are, right? And you can only, but you see the local navigation becomes revealed only when you're in the section, and which is often the child. So it's 2 or 3, level 2 or 3. So here I know that I'm under history. I show the user under history, and then Manchester United. I don't even know what this is. Monitoring alerts. And then I don't even know if there's more navigation to this. But there's total 3, and then this I'm in within somewhere, and I have some tabs as well that I can navigate. So let's see specifically. Manchester pool. Order offer, no results, request. So it sounds like it's a pool. Liverpool, Manchester United. I don't even know 100% what that is. But anyway, I'm within somewhere, and but I have a breadcrumb, soccer, England, Premier League, soccer, Liverpool. So I'm within a subcategory in the probably a third category. And hopefully, if I'm here, it's because I've been searching, and that will make sense to me. But right now, little. Okay, so you've already heard of invertible, horizontal, embedded vertical. So whatever terminology you want to use, I don't stick to terminology. I use one that I'm familiar with. So I often use main. So I would often use main navigation, and local. I use sub navigation as well. You can use the terminology you want, but you can have this is level 1. This is going to be your level 2, and maybe you're going to have some level 3 as well. Okay, you need to show me whatever terminology you're going to use for the assignment for zoo. Just be consistent. So bad and bad thing. I think we are on the home page. I don't think we are in the section now. And then they have their top level 1, right? They have search. So this is 1. And then they have feature categories and bedding and bath. So I think I'm in bed and bath. So I'm here now. So I'm within a section, and then they have feature categories. So I think this is my level 3, or this is my level 2. This is what it looks like my level 2. So they've used top, they've used the breadcrumbs, and they've used left navigation pattern. Now they have the search. So now we're kind of going the utility bar. Search, account, likes, and cart. And I would say there's even the placement of these items is thought through. Back these utility bar as well. You rarely will see product, but the Ontario site had put the product there. But it means if they have account and lens, then you have to move something. And I would say having product to the top and move utility would maybe be awkward. Okay, the star has one way of doing it. There are so multiple ideas and multiple ways to do this. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. But before I go that, are there any questions so far about navigation? Okay, primary, the most important, it's probably level 1. The secondary, supporting elements. So you support join, buy tickets, search, cart, likes, contact. So you do have some primary, and you do have, I believe, some secondary item in all of your zoo, and then you probably can already think about some of the footer elements. So I don't think you're gonna have a difficult choice of showing primary and secondary, but maybe primary is your nomenclature that you want to use, your primary, and it's level 1. But maybe on your level 1, you may not all put everything as primary. You may put some of your level 1 as secondary navigation, or on your utility navigation like this as well. You may choose to do that. You just have to tell me why you do. Both structural, associative, utility. So, well, I don't use that terminology, but that's one that you can also use. Structural, think about structural is your level 1, 2, 3. Okay. It sounds like associative is how you navigate about level. So between 2 and 2, 2 and 3. This is hyperlinking. To me, I think this is the web. And your utility is really nothing to do with your industry. Think of utility on pretty much all sites. Search, contact, login, likes, cart. It's utility, and it's there all the time. Think of it. Utility is what you're almost going to go there when you're ready to maybe buy, or maybe you're ready to do something. You go there to maybe complete or finish. So you look at this and you're happy. Now you're going to call to book maybe. So you're going to look to your utility, right? So maybe that's one way of thinking about it. Can we repeat an option at 2 places? I say I would avoid repeating an option at 2 places in here, because why? What's the value? To me, Angel, when I hear someone wants to put something in 2 places, it's because they haven't done a good job of organizing the content or labeling things. And this thing, by showing it in all places, then people will eventually hit and find it, which I think is for the wrong reason. Is a sign. It's a sign. I see it as a sign that we haven't done necessarily. You should only have 1 entry point, like at this top level, and I would say from the utility bar in this, you should only have 1. This should only be unique. I wouldn't repeat. I think it's not a good use. Now, mind you, the footer, you may repeat some elements on the footer because people will expect certain elements on the footer that you may have on your utility. Here you may have contact. So let's say you may have contact as your utility, but maybe you're going to choose to have also contact under your footer. But I would not repeat items in here. Yes,
Uh,
you have a question. So,
yes, Eve. It was related to the previous page that you were showing, the one before this one. The one, yeah. Uh, Actually, there was an option of buy tickets on the top that I saw. This wasn't the one. Yes, this one. So it had an
yeah,
option of buy tickets on top, and then it had films and events. So I was particularly thinking of this thing. That could it be under films and events as well, and like on top, like at two places?
I, you know what I think that they've done, but again, I don't know why TIFF has done it this way. But think of TIFF; they're all about people buying tickets, right?
Yeah,
So they've done almost like with buy tickets what you would want to do with donate.
yeah.
They've kind of said we're gonna have a call to action for buy tickets, but maybe when you click on buy tickets, it actually takes to something similar than film and events as well.
Okay.
But I think they just wanted to have a specific call to action for that items. But I would avoid of having tickets, buying tickets here, buy tickets there.
Okay.
But you would hope that when you go to film and events, you will also obviously going to be able to see the films and buy tickets there. It's just an alternative entry point. But here they've said we're going to have a clear call to action that because this is where we make money, right? We make
Yeah.
money, money, money. And here I'm probably going to have buy tickets as well down the road, but it's just an alternative. And that's
Okay.
okay. But I would really avoid to do it. Like here, I would be able to explain this. Buy tickets is why we're here. TIFF exists because the people are buying tickets. Now, if someone says, "Well, contact us," like otherwise everything's going to be developable, and I could have everything in duplicate. I'm telling you, the buy tickets people have good reasons to have buy tickets, but you're going to have the people that are dealing with refunds will say, "I need refunds." The people that are dealing with complaints, they'll say, "I need repeat." Everybody's going to ask to repeat. It's impossible. You need to be able to really, really be clear on why you've put this thing at the top, and here you have Bubble. Bubble will support you, but for some other thing, not everything can be supported by Bubble.
Okay. And for accessibility, where do you think would be a good place to place that?
Accessibility. Audience. How often will people come? Who is the audience, and how large is the audience? Also, versus if I put accessibility, then what else am I not able to put? Right? There's so many things. Maybe you want to put accessibility to show that you're actually your site is accessible. When you think of TIFF, maybe accessibility is a big thing because you actually you need to make sure that it's accessible, right? I can go to TIFF if I need to have a accommodation for accessibility, and then they clearly show there as a menu item. If you're Sunwing, maybe accessibility is not the main thing that you prepare to put at level 1, but maybe you're going to put it at the footer. Maybe you're going to put it here, but it's just everything you put here, right? There's maybe something else that you may not put, and then the question is, what is the impact of accessibility or versus something else?
Okay.
There's no one clear answer, but you would have to see also visits as well that you will get to accessibility versus now putting buy tickets. Maybe you only have room for one item here. Maybe there's only one room for one more item, and you have to pick between accessibility, call us, or chat. Then you would have to see what will chat give to the business versus accessibility. What will accessibility link give to the business versus chat? What will accessibility give versus a telephone number?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you see, like I is about business analytics, business decisions. You have to make choices. It's about
Yeah.
making choices. But the bubble is a good place to start. And this is why I said anybody can do an information architecture. Anybody can draw this. Anybody can draw navigation. It's simple, but it's the choices you make is the most difficult. Look at how much time we spent on card sorting and eyes and now navigation. Okay, it's 12:20, so I'd like to park and then for navigation, and then tomorrow will be time for labs, and my image is frozen, but I think you guys can hear me. Time for labs for the week, And but I can also maybe continue a little bit on. There will be some time for the lab, and then on Tuesday, next Tuesdays we'll continue on navigation. But there is an assignment around it. What I encourage you is to actually go on your own to read the material too. There's a lot of material, but I don't think you can have a challenge. I think it's somehow straightforward. It's choices. There's not one choice better than the other. You just have to make sure that you know why you're making those choices. Can you guys hear me? I can't even see the chat, so it'll be very good if someone could just say that you can hear me on the voice.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Now the challenge is I don't have access. I can't even access. My computer is really frozen on me. Hold on. Do you care to hear about the big final project more, or would you like to maybe see a sketch of navigation? But we only have, I think, 5 minutes left of how Sarah, another teacher, has mocked up some navigation. What will you be more interested in the next 5 minutes to hear about?
Did you repeat that again?
Yes. Would you like to see how Sarah's a teacher as well in UX and design, how she has actually sketched some navigation, or would you like to hear more about the details of the final project, the big final assignment for this class? What would you like to hear more about? Is the question clear? And maybe you guys are not hearing me because I'm.
Seems like everybody wants the navigation, the sketches.
Hey. Oh, thank you. Thank you for now. If I can get the navigation, I think I'm gonna have to close Blackboard, but you guys stay. I will come back. Internet keeps crashing. Okay, I'm back, but it shows that my internet connection, my status is very low. So, okay, someone is flossing. I love it. I'm just reading Jeff's comment on the chat. So let's go to Sarah's video. And I'm just gonna pause for now, and then I'm gonna share the screen with everybody. I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Okay, perfect. Great. So let's look at Sarah. Sarah, for those of you, I don't know if you know Sarah, she is a professor at school. She's great. And she did some mock-up. So let's look at what she has done. It's 7 minutes, so that's going to take us a little bit, maybe a minute past, but I'm okay. So let's stay tuned and we'll come back.
Okay, so we're talking about the Metropolitan Bakery Information Architecture and how we convert that to a navigation system and design a navigation system.
Oh, we cannot hear the video anymore.
We can't hear the video.
Okay, so you cannot hear the video, but can you see the video? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. And I have a fire alarm testing that is going behind. This is my day today. Wow. Okay, so I think it's because I put mute, so my apology. But I spare you from hearing the fire alarm. Here we go.
Still no voice. No, we cannot hear.
No matter how your navigation system is actually designed and for what screen size. Okay, so we're talking about a Metropolitan Bakery IA. There it is on screen, and I just want to show you a couple ways you could approach this nav. And I'm gonna talk through the approaches just using a very standard horizontal nav and footer, just basic desktop style approach. But of course, you can apply all these principles to other screen sizes or other types of patterns. But, okay, so if I were to just take the diagram as is and create a nav directly on this nav, I would do something like this, right? I would have some fancy logo up here, and then the first section would be about menus, catering, shop, recipes, community, and contacts. Okay, so here's my bar going across here. Just gonna put some tabs in because again we're just sketching here. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items there. And then down here in the footer, I might repeat a couple items. I might repeat contact. I might repeat vote. And then that's it. Like if I were just to take the diagram at face value, this is what I would end up with. Okay, something that looks just like this. All right, but the problem is, as I pointed out earlier, there's some issues with this diagram. First off, the order here just doesn't really make sense to me. Why are things in this order? And there's obviously some things missing, right? So is there, if there's a shop, then there needs to be something around shipping and returns, around privacy policy for collecting information, some sort of copyright message, all of that stuff is missing here. Social is included in the diagram, so we might, again, have like a Facebook icon. Hello Birdie, this is my little Twitter icon down here, but again, a lot of this stuff is missing off this diagram. So now let's try run 2. Okay. Okay, I like this stuff for now. So now let's assume that the real goal for the business is to get customers to the location. So this is a bakery that has a bunch of locations in Reading Terminal, in University City, in Chestnut Hill, whatever. And if the business objective is all about getting people to the locations, then one option would be just to include the locations right across the top. So take the level 3 items here, which are the locations written as Metro Cafe, Reading Terminal, right? So there's another option, because I just push people directly to locations. So again, the business model is out about getting people inside the cafes, this would be the way to go. And then underneath here, I could, once you click on written apps, I could see menus underneath that. Okay, that would be another option. Now, what do I do with all of these other elements? Well, about could be down here, and that could be it. Okay, catering and shop could be up here. Okay, that could be access to a local menu for shop. Recipes, again, can be up here. Community. Okay, so this could be a secondary nav up here. outside of this primary nav, which would be based on locations. And that was if I was trying to push people to locations. Let's try another option. Let's imagine the business goals for Metro Bakery right now are to move towards online sales to customers, direct to customers. So, COVID's on now. We don't want people going into the stores. Our major push is to get people into buying online. In that case, we could take all of the elements that are under Shop Online and we could lay them right out in the nav. So the first thing you see when you land here are elements from the bakery: breads, cakes, coffee. So I can put these Shop Online items right up the outside, and this would really encourage people. If you landed on the site, you know right away that this is an online shopping site, and these are the categories I can buy from. And then again, I might have locations and a drop-down menu up here, right? I can click and choose a location, go location. I might have the menus. I might move those under the locations. I might have recipes or community up here, etc., etc., etc. Right? Okay. So again, completely different approach based on a different business objective. Okay, completely different approach based on a different business objective. Now these aren't the only ways that I can organize this now, right? I could just take the categories that exist and I could rework them slightly. I could say find a location or just locations, Shop Online, recipes, menus, and community. Okay, I can search up here. Okay, and what is this thing? Contact down here. This down here. Okay. And Metropolitan Bakery is a real institution. People come here based on its reputation and what it's all about. Maybe indeed about is right off the outside. Then locations, menus, etc., 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 etc. So I hope you're starting to see here that the importance of the business objectives, right? So the business objectives will drive the way you organize this. And ideally, all of this sort of organization should have been done at the information architecture level, but this particular information architecture has some issues, right? It has some problems. So hopefully that helps you understand how these and can be in conflict with each other, and shows you that the way you develop the navigation out of the information architecture can be radically different based on the same diagram.
Okay, so at 12:32, I have to jump to my next class, and some of you probably have too. I hope you enjoyed navigation. It's just another way of connecting everything that we've been talking so far. But I'm hoping that you see how easy, by knowing what we're doing, for whom and for how navigation and this decision come. And I think Sarah did a very good job. The same site map, you can have 2, 3, 4 ways of navigating and organizing and picking your options. It will all depend on what the priorities are. So tomorrow we'll continue on the topic. I hope you'll have a good end of day today. And we can look at growth right away. So on this week's aside, we have to build this thing on desktop, mobile, and even do a prototype that you can actually interact with. Am I right? You don't have to do a prototype if you are able to explain to me the navigation and show me how the navigation will work through screens. So do a prototype if it's easier. You don't have to do a prototype. You can just do screens if you want. But you have to explain to me the behavior, and then you have to show me the screen that shows the behavior, and that's acceptable. All I care is to understand the navigation and how it looks and how it works and how it behaves. If the prototype is easy for you, great. If you can do that through screens and explain and show me the sequence, then I'm happy. We're good? We can talk more about it tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you, Drake, and have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.